Okay, so mine is based off Brown versus the Board of Education. So, some really important things to know that were part of the Brown versus Board of Education was white and blacks being in separate schools was one of the main things, because this is what they call segregation. And number two, it was a violation to the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, because they did not respect, or they did not follow that law. So that was a big part of this, and it was huge to the civil rights movement. That's why it's so big and so highly celebrated, because it made a big impact to the civil rights movement. So a little background story is Oliver Brown. He is the father of Linda Brown, and that's the school that she was trying to go to, but she really couldn't. So this is how it all happened. Oliver went to the Sumner School to enroll his daughter, because that's where his daughter, they had really easy access to that school, and she could just walk right over, and it was just really convenient for her to go there to that school. But this school was just all white school. So he went and talked to the principal. They both went and talked to the principal, and the principal basically said no, she can't be here, because this is all whites, and they didn't allow blacks to attend that school, and mostly because the state laws allowed for segregation. So he pointed out that part. So ended up being that Linda was upset, and she didn't like this, and she was tired all the time of having to take this 2 hours to get to school all the time, every day. And so this was not fun for her at all, and they probably went through a really hard time. So it took her 2 hours overall to get to school and back. Separate but equal, May 17, 1954. This is something that would be said a lot of the times, because everything was separate between whites and blacks, but they said that they were still equal. In the end, it was not all equal, because the black people had bad quality materials in their school, while the white people had better materials in theirs, and it made their education better. Therefore that saying was not true. Earl Warren said it himself. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. And he went on to say many more things, but this date, May 17, 1954, was the day that he basically said this saying separate but equal is not true anymore. It is it's gonna basically disappear, and it's not gonna be anything we need to remember, basically, because not remember, but anything that was ever true, because that was never true, but because they wanted the schools to be separate, but that still wasn't even equal, because these children had the blacks in their school didn't have good education, good stuff in their school, and so the white school did. So that's why nothing was equal about this in any type of way. And this is the paper of May 17, 1954. So the reason that the separate but equal saying was brought up was because the Supreme Court made it known that it was 9-0 in favor for Oliver Brown. And this picture just like, it's just saying how, like, to me, like, it's not equal, or it's basically showing that nothing about this was equal. Nothing about, not even, and it's not even just like education, but like everything else. Everything was separated between them, and nothing about it was equal. How did the white people react to the law? Okay, how did the white people react to the law being unconstitutional? So they were really upset and mad and sad. They did not like this one bit because they did not want the black kids in their schools. So they decided to close their schools. They would not have the problem of having the black children in their schools. So not only, well, actually, it shows it right here in this picture. Like, the white people were absolutely like, just, they were not having it. They did not want them, like, everything being mixed and just having to share everything. So they would just went a step further, and like they just decided to close our schools and stuff. And not only that, but they like really treated them really badly, and they harassed them, and like everything that they said to them, they really just mistreated them. So they weren't treated well after they found out like the law being unconstitutional had happened. How did Brown v. Board of Education have a big impact of civil rights movement? So it struck down segregation, which led to making it more of a chance to strike down segregation in other places like housing, public accommodation, and higher level of education, and like many other more places too. It is also why this is highly celebrated victory in history. So like they even like protested and everything. We protest school segregation. But yeah, so they did not like the fact like that their children were really had to like do anything, just like they had to go schools really far away, just like Linda Brown did, and like it wasn't fair to them, so it wasn't all equal and everything. And so having like all of them come together and being mixed and like struck down segregation made a big impact on civil rights movement. What is NAACP? NAACP stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It was to enforce justice for African Americans, and so they could just live better and just actually be mixed with the whites and not having everything separate, because that life for them was like really hard, and it was not fair at all, because the whites obviously like they got everything better and they didn't. So yeah, here's a picture that I didn't show, but this is where they were protesting for NAACP. Who takes victory in Brown v. Board of the Education? So simply just we do not know, because this is still a case till today that many schools, over 200 schools, still have, and that this case is opened on the segregation. So like to many people, I guess some, like, we could say that Brown takes the victory, or the Board of Education, but his work, like, changed a lot, and till this day, like, his work is, like, still being done, and it's not, like, all, like, it's still in the process and everything, so it's not done yet, so we don't know. It's like a complicated answer, but some could say yes and some could say no that he did win or not, just because it didn't really have a closing on this. This impacted the children badly. So this impacted the black students mentally because of the separation from the whites, and so it was not good to them, and it made them feel some sort of way knowing that they had to be separated. So obviously, like, this was bad for their mental health, and like they probably felt some sort of way. As I seen it in a video where it said this, and yeah, it was like bad for them. Here's some facts over the Brown v. Board of Education. Brown v. Board of Education had 5 cases to it in the beginning in 5 other states. Well, it began in 5 other states. And over a third of the U.S. schools segregated their schools because of the law. Plaintiffs took great risks to be in this case, mainly because they lost their jobs, or some of them were like cut low, like how they were being paid, and like everything was basically starting to be unfair to them because they took this risk to be part of, like, support the Browns. Thurgood Marshall was for the Browns and argued the case for plaintiffs. So he was a good person, and like he was for the Browns, and I think he was also he studied in this one school to become, like, achieve something, and I don't know if it ended up happening or like being true. The Brown v. Board was an unanimous decision. Back, like I said in my other slide, it was 9-0 for Browns. This took many years to get by with. It did not just happen overnight or soon. So this is true, because to this day, like, it's still going on, and they even had a second unanimous ruling. So this just took like several years. This didn't happen like within a month or within a year. It took many years. And yeah. Okay, so adding back to separate but equal slide, the white Americans stood by the Jim Crow laws and Plessy v. Ferguson decision, which is what stated separate but equal. So the Plessy v. Ferguson is, they made that decision of separate but equal in the law of Jim Crow laws. And that's how that started the separate but equal. And why was this overturned? Like, why was separate but equal? Why did it have no place? Well, because the Supreme Court thought that separate is inherently unequal. Education is important to all races. School policies should be uniform. Citizenship requires voting rights. What big impact does this have on us today? It came to an end of racial segregation in the U.S. that it took over the Plessy v. Ferguson decision which is Separate but Equal. That was made in 1896. So this was made like a long time ago, before this even happened in the 1954, 1950s. This is why we are all mixed today and are able to be together and share. So this does have a big impact on us today still. Here are my sources. And now we're going to watch a video that is 8 minutes and 22 seconds.